Hello, this is Kara from Kara Tarot with a flip through and walkthrough of the Journey Tarot by Teagan Michael Turner. And that is the cover of the box. The box is a little counterintuitive. You often, when I pick it up, I think we open it this way, but I'm opening it this way. I went online because the guidebook does not say much about the artist's intention. The artist put it this way. He said, if the Rider-Waite-Smith is air and the Thoth is fire, then this was created to be a watery deck. And right away, I think from opening the box in that kind of way that shows you that you're kind of off kilter with gravity, we see this watery interpretation from the beginning, and this beautiful illustration. The beautiful illustration is the reason I got this deck. It reminds me a bit of the artwork of the Curious Travels. This deck has 2 additional cards. It has a yes, no, maybe card for pendulum swings, and it has a chakra card, which in the guidebook, it does tell you how he intends for you to use this for meditating on each chakra. So those are additional cards. I will start by talking about the card stock, which is glorious. It is a kind of a very soft rose petal on the back and a matte linen finish on the front. So right away, you know, that's special, that it has this wonderful feeling for your fingertips as you're looking at it, and then it has this this linen finish on the front. I have worked with this a little bit, but I put it back in order because I think it's better to help you understand it in order. The guidebook does not tell you much at all. It is, for each card, there are 3 keywords. An idea of what the Empress, this is, I'll just use this, the Empress, the one who delivers, the catalyst of the mind. Now that phrase is different. The transformation of the mind. In the minors, you don't have those. You have that kind of a line for the majors. The great way of the mind, the potentiator of the body. So he's kind of equating different parts of the body with different majors. And then a very brief idea of what he believes the card to be. The Empress, the unconscious revealed experience, the seeker's ability to receive unconscious messages. Phrase, coincidences are cosmic winks. Not links, but winks. Now, it's interesting he has that much with the unconscious for the Empress. So let's look at the Priestess. This is the one who knows, the potentiator of the mind. The Priestess, the unobservable, unconscious, and mind contains all things. The seeker's initiation into the subconscious. Phrase, there is a library of information inside the mind and greater information in the greater mind. Intuition, dreams, and knowledge. So it's interesting that there's kind of a conflation of unconsciousness between these 2 cards, which might make it a little more difficult in using the guidebook. Lovely guidebook, again, using images from the cards. However, it is clear from his website he doesn't really intend you to use the guidebook. He specifically created this to be an intuitive deck. And he said that if you are someone who is seeking to read tarot cards intuitively, this is a deck you can go to. So it's important to know that going into this. So we see this watery imagery. He does change the titles of some of the majors, although these first 5 are the same. And I think I'm going to go through them this way in this deck, just so you can kind of see how they fit together like this. There is some nudity in this deck. Now, normally in Rider-Waite-Smith, 8 would be strength, but it's just as here, but it's called the equilibrium. So we have the Hierophant, the Lovers, the Great Way instead of the Chariot, the Equilibrium, and the Sage. The Fortune instead of the Wheel of Fortune. Oh. Hold on. This figure is definitely a reference to the artworks of William Blake, and that might even be sort of a lifted image. So instead of, we have the Fortune instead of the Wheel of Fortune, the Passion instead of Strength, the Hanging Man, Death, and Alchemist. So while we're here, let's look up what he says for this Death card. Death, the one who transforms, the transformation of the body. Zodiac sign, Scorpio. Death, our guide to show us another side. The seeker advances into new circumstances. Phrase, I know I am meant to be wherever I go. And the keywords are transformations, growth, and change. So instead of the Devil, we have the Pans, the Tower, the Star, the Moon, and the Sun. You notice in the Moon card here, these characters have they have invisible heads here, or invisible bodies inside of clothes. Or these two do, but these don't. So these are quite surreal, but it's an interesting kind of modern illustrators type of surreal. Here, the star is pouring this water into the ocean and this water over her head, which is turning into light as it showers down. The Liberation and the Universe, the last two cards of the majors. And let's just look and see what it says for the universe. The universe, the one with one, the great way of the spirit, cosmic force, Saturn. The universe is the source and the surroundings. The seeker is at one with the concept of self and of intelligent infinity. Phrase, the exploration of self is ever expansive. Finalize, maturity, and intention are the keywords that go with those. So now we have the fire suit. And the majors are the Acolyte, the court cards, the Acolyte, the Knight, the Queen, and the King. And I'd say this is typical of the Queens and Kings. They tend to be elemental beings composed of that element. This looks like an alchemist here, the Acolyte of fire. While I have that here, let's see how. So it doesn't easily spread this way because of the rose petal on the back, even though it's not that kind of really thick, sticky rose petal, but it's enough that it doesn't spread very well or very easily. But I do think it's an incredibly luscious cardstock. It's a beautiful weight. Heavier than a lot, but not at all that cardboard stiff. It's just a luscious, luscious cardstock. The box is also rose petal finish, by the way. And now we have the suit of water, and just remember that he believes this is a watery deck. And I looked through the meanings here, and they are very traditional Rider-Waite-Smith. But again, he means for this to be read intuitively. You can see how this would be a very good deck for a storytelling deck. This is water, but these are the stone stairs going up into the air, and no visible water even on that card. And here we have water. And this imagery reminds me of imagery from an YouTube video for going to sleep that tells a story, and this imagery reminds me of what's in that. And it is in the court cards where you really get the element of each suit. Acolyte, Knight, oh, sorry, Queen, and King. I'm one of the people that has received a hit on my account for nudity. I will say that the nudity, it was the Mushroom Oracle, and the nudity appears on the box, and I had a picture of the box on my video, you know, the front card. And so I think that hit was just because the nudity was on that front card. I have, knock wood, not received any hits for nudity in the display of card decks, although I think other people have. This is the suit of air. So right away, see, it's very, very different. No swords in these images. So these two images could be, well, here's a decaying house that a tree is growing through. That would be, I can see that working with the death in the Rider-Waite-Smith 10 of Swords. This nightmare vision, of course, fits with the 9. But here, the 6, the travel, yes, we do sort of have the travel imagery here. The theft or duplicity, not at all there. And then the feeling trapped, flying through the air on balloons would be kind of the antithesis. So there are things that fit with traditional meanings and things that are just quite different. Acolyte of air, the Knight of air, a glass Pegasus, the Queen of air, one hand pointing up, one hand pointing down, and the King of air. And then the suit of earth. Obviously, if you are using this deck as a deck to start reading intuitively, this is not a deck that's going to help you learn traditional meanings. I don't really get a decision from this. This looks like the sale of a calf. I don't get the decision making here for the two. We actually have 4 coins in this. That's rare in this deck, that we have traditional symbols. And we do have this person all tied up, trying to climb up, but the other end is tied to a person's neck. And the 5, the poverty, does look like poverty. This, on the other hand, doesn't necessarily evoke the generosity of the 6 of coins, and there are no coins there. There are rocks in the bag. Beautiful image. So the 7 of Earth is usually about a period of evaluation. I don't get that. I don't get anything that's normally associated with that here. The 8 of Earth, about applying yourself. Definitely don't get that here. And the 9 of Earth, or the 9 of Pentacles, completely different imagery here. Those are usually the 3 cards I look at to see how I like the illustrations of the deck in terms of a Rider-Waite-Smith. And these would tell me right away, this deck is completely different. It is meant to be its own system, which it says. It might be a bit grandiose for him to think that he can place himself on the same level of Rider-Waite-Smith and Thoth, but if that's his intention, it's worth knowing. The 10 of Earth, I do, simply because I love this kind of lush forest greenery, but this does have more of a religious aspect to it. So from the Earth suit here, we can tell this is quite a different deck. The Acolyte of Earth is pregnant. The Knight of Earth, riding a tortoise. The Queen of Earth, and the King of Earth. Now, I will say the Queens and Kings of this deck, I do feel are very much in line with traditional Rider-Waite-Smith illustrations and thought process. Let's see what he says for the Queen of Earth. Health, water of earth. The queen of physicality embraces with hospitality. She knows the pound, the coin is her crown. That's how she found that the world it's round, and that flawless health delivers righteous wealth. Wellness, fitness, and nutrition. Those are the key words for this card. So it is quite different. So poetry, there are so many elements here that you know that I like. I do like poetry associated with the cards. I don't necessarily like, I have a mixed bag as whether I like a changed system or not. This isn't a system that I particularly like, except knowing that this deck is meant to be read intuitively. What I would do with a deck like this is, knowing my Rider-Waite-Smith ideas and my numerological ideas, I would start there and then use the picture as the intuitive addition. As somebody said, an intuitive spice, which it was Vincent Petici. In an interview, I just watched his interview from many years ago done by Cassia at Tarot Map. Interesting interview. They also had an interesting and thoughtful disagreement about the relative ages of the High Priestess and the Empress, and I think it was Vincent was saying that he thought of the High Priestess as young because she was supposed to be a virgin, and the Empress is a matriarch because she's pregnant. And I think Cassia was kind of saying the other, and I kind of feel the other too. I think he's forgetting that nuns are often virgins, no matter what their age. You know, that it's possible to be a virgin and be older. And it's also possible to give birth quite young. So I tend to think of them as, I tend to think of the High Priestess as older too, despite the Rider-Waite-Smith imagery. So for a deck that's going to make you kind of rethink and add to your thoughts about different cards, this is wonderful. You will either flow with this kind of illustration or not. I like it quite a bit. It's to me, because to me it's illustration that looks like illustration, and this is kind of illustration in the old school book illustration mode, not the Disney mode. So I'm fond of this style. I know right away it's not ever going to be one of my top decks because of the system being something that he wants to be unique. So that kind of sets it to a place where I do have other decks, where if I'm looking for something different, if I'm looking for something, I think this is something I could use with clients easily, because the imagery is very evocative, and it's one that you could kind of lay out and talk about it card by card. And before you say anything, ask the person, what does this look like to you? Or after, some people prefer to say everything first and then get input, and then, you know, but if there's one in particular that you have a question about, just, you know, turn it to the client and say, what does this image mean to you? What do you get from this? Because that can often feed into your meanings and understanding of the cards for their reading. So, The Journey Tarot by Teagan Michael Turner. If you look up this by his name, Luminarium is his website, and it's also where it's sold. I think it's luminarium.com. So I hope you enjoyed this. I had a little snafu right at the end. So this is Cara from Cara Tarot. Thank you, and have a wonderful journey.